Welcome back. First of all, I want to thank all of you for the great feedback on this topic. A lot of you have been messaging us on Instagram. And if you want to give us any suggestions for shows or just show your appreciation, obviously over on Instagram is a great way to do it. And if you've not yet done so, a friendly reminder to always give us a 5-star review over on iTunes and a comment as to why you like that particular podcast. And do remember to like and subscribe on YouTube. So this is day 2, and today we're talking about how to dominate your farm and 10x your leads and your loyalty. We discussed a lot of great ideas that were leading to what we believe is one of the greatest ways of going about establishing yourself as a true market expert through creating a very robust neighborhood directory. Make sure you listen to part 1, which was yesterday. Otherwise, part 2 is going to be somewhat of a mystery because we're building upon the ideas that we shared with you yesterday.
That's right. So yesterday we talked about what you could and should put into your neighborhood guide or directory, and a little bit about how to put it together. But today we're going to talk about how to make your neighborhood guide for free, which is something you absolutely can do.
Well, but before we get into the free idea, because it's all about sponsors, the money that you're going to spend on this is going to be commensurate with the size of your neighborhood, let's just say.
That's true.
And frankly, the average commission.
How many you're printing. Yeah.
Right. So if you're in an upper end neighborhood, and if you just give somebody to get, a bunch of 8.5 by 11s that's stapled, you can pretty much assume that's not going to make
Headed for the trash.
It's going to make its rounds literally in the round garbage can. So do consider spending a little bit more money to make sure that you're producing a product, because that is what you're doing, that's going to be in alignment with the expectations of the owners in that particular neighborhood. And the easy button is going to always be to have some sort of 3-ring binder that, and again, you can look online and find all these different things. We're going to talk about, specifically how to assemble it, what it should look like. But this is something that's going to last the ages, hopefully, that's going to represent you. So if you have a big farm, if you have a big geographic area that you're trying to be a specialist in, maybe you choose part of the farm and you expand it from there. Like when Julie and I sold real estate in the New Albany Country Club area in New Albany, Ohio, there was a lot of little sub-neighborhoods that were inside the big master plan community. So, we would have started with Brandon, then we would have moved over to this one and this one and this one, and eventually expanding it to the point where it did include the entire community. But just take into consideration that if you're going to, you're going to put the effort into this, it's going to cost money. That is the reason that part 2, with frankly how to get this thing paid for, is so important. So let's go on to the first point, Julie.
All right, how to make your neighborhood guide for free. You can ask your lender to sponsor the guide. Give them a half-page ad in the directory. They can promote special programs or incentives there. You could even give them a full page if you want.
And remember, on these pages, you could even have little text ads at the bottom of every page too. You could do, you could run ads all the way through it. I don't think anyone's going to be offended by it.
You do like a banner ad on the top and bottom.
Exactly.
Sell ads to the local service providers. Use business card size, quarter page, half page, and full page ads at different price levels. For a premium price, you can use the inside, front, and back covers. Remember, you're going to be on the back cover, but inside the back cover is another ad space.
Well, the back cover, like when you're looking at taking out ads, it's the cover, obviously, that's worth the most money. And then it's going to be inside of the front cover is worth the second most expensive. And then the inside of the second page. So if you think about it just in the order in which I did it, and then Julie's saying on the very back of it, that's the most valuable.
Which should be them, I think.
Right. I wouldn't give away the back, or I wouldn't give away the inside of the front cover. I would keep those for myself if I were you. Now, unless, of course, someone's willing to pay you a premium for those spots and then give them away.
Adjust accordingly. Okay, you can ask your past clients and sphere of influence contacts who own businesses if they'd like to sponsor the guide or partially sponsor your guide. You can even allow the kids in the neighborhood to post their small businesses for free, like a babysitting, lawn mowing, tutoring company, any of those types of things. Don't charge the kids, but you can have a kids page, a kids corner, so to speak.
Depends on how prosperous that lemonade stand is.
That's true.
That lemonade stand could be selling
inflation,
like limoncellos, right? You never know. Those things aren't cheap. Those kids are making
That's
good margin.
That's a great idea.
We
should do that.
Stand. Limoncello is an alcoholic drink, dear listener.
We learned about that in Italy. Okay.
We're joking.
Yes, we're joking mostly. Okay. So that's how you can get it. We used to call that zero-based, so you're not, you're $0 out of pocket. Now, Tim started to talk about this a second ago. Make it professional and worthy of keeping. Do use high-quality paper. Do print it in color. Use strong binding like spiral bound with a transparent cover, or even book binding. Put a picture of the neighborhood sign or clubhouse on the cover and put your picture on the back. You can keep the information clear, concise, and consistent throughout the directory. Don't change fonts, don't change the format, and make the size easy to store. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. Notebook sized is ideal, a magazine type format. Make it something that I don't want to throw out, right?
I'm going to go back to the 8.5 by 11. The reason I don't want to have you guys doing a bounded thing is because it's one and done and you have to redo it every time there's updates, and there's going to be updates all the time as people move in and out. So instead, consider a 3-ring binder that, you can obviously take out the pages that are no longer relevant, drop in the pages that are relevant. That way, after you've actually gone to the expense and the effort of creating the 3-ring binder with the pages in the first place, then what your excuse to be staying in contact with them is to give them the updated pages. Right?
That's a good idea. You could have like an evergreen notebook and change the pages as necessary.
Yeah, exactly.
Or update them as necessary.
Right. And don't try to, like, if the neighborhood has the neighborhood branding, this should be obvious to everyone, but it's not though. If the neighborhood branding is using like some sort of royal blue with gold font, and copy the neighborhood branding exactly. Don't try to be creative or make it unique. Make it look like it's some sort of like institutionalized part of the community, even though you're creating it. Don't overthink any of this.
Don't try to rebrand it yourself.
Right. Don't try to rebrand it yourself. This is not a big creative outlet. This is a community service for you to create something that people are going to want to keep at their fingertips and use on a regular basis. And you will absolutely laugh every time. Laugh in pleasure, right? I don't know why anyone would laugh in displeasure.
I don't know.
Yeah, but you guys get the idea. Yeah. You'll be super happy every time someone calls and says, well, you know what? I know a bunch of other agents, but your directory, I've never, it's always been sitting on my countertop all these years. And obviously I thought of you when I put my house for sale. That's the type of thing that's worth investing in.
Should they have maybe a quarter size page that says for your free market analysis or something like that?
I would definitely do a call to action. You definitely want to have something more than just your name, rank, and serial number. You want to have some reason for them to want to call you. An updated CMA, but make it so that they can do it passively. Not just a call, obviously, but make, like we give you guys a CTA on this podcast, a call to action on the podcast, that you can go to a website, you can text. Like, for example, here, I'll do one just in case you've forgotten. Mm-hmm. Have you guys joined Premier Coaching?
There you go.
If you have not yet done so, you can join Premier Coaching now for free. And you simply have to go to premiercoaching.com, or you can text the word Premier to 47372. And either way, you're going to get instant access to Premier Coaching for 30 days for free. And yes, that does include a daily semi-private coaching call. You love this podcast. We know you do, because this is the #1 downloaded and listened to daily podcast for real estate professionals. You will adore what you get in Premier Coaching. Daily semi-private coaching sessions are awaiting. So make sure you go to premiercoaching.com or text the word Premier
to 47372, PREMIER, Premier.
All right. So what you want to do in your neighborhood directory is give them a call to action, similar, but maybe it's for an updated CMA. Maybe it's for some sort of, instant market report. Do something that's going to give them, like, what are sellers always interested in? Aside from the information that's already going to be in the directory, they're going to want to know what the house is worth. They're going to know about neighborhood trends. They're going to know about all of that stuff. Well, another idea for you is every year, depending on your market, well, this is true for every market, but, adjust accordingly. You might live in a community, like when Julie and I lived in Texas, there's no state taxes, but the property taxes more than makes up for it.
Huge.
Yeah. Okay. So your property taxes in Texas, they would reassess once a year, correct?
Yep.
And then there was a very simple way to go about contesting the taxes which everyone did. And then the city almost always lowered it by some sort of, not a large amount of money. And when Julie and I lived in New Albany, Ohio, there was something similar, but I don't think it was annual. Was it? Did they reassess annually?
I think it was about biannual, but the tax assessors kind of come out whenever they feel like it. But it's every year to 2 years.
But the process to contest it in New Albany was a little bit more difficult, similar to Texas, but not the same. So in New Albany, there was a forum on the auditor's the city tax auditor's website, mm-hmm. and you had to send in some sort of validation as to why you thought the house was
you have to send in comps.
Overassessed. You have to send in comps. And so what we would do is every year when we knew the tax assessment, or every other year whenever it came up, when the tax assessment was about to happen, we would market directly to the community about the same time they're getting the new tax bill, telling them to contest their property taxes. And we would offer to do, guess what? A free CMA, which would obviously generate a lot of potential listing leads for us. And if it wasn't them that was thinking about selling, the fact that we were doing something for them, like doing helping them assess their taxes to get it down, reassess their taxes to get their property taxes down, that usually earned us the right for them to feel comfortable sending us referrals. So do think out of the box like that. And when you're creating your CTAs, guess what though? A simple CMA, and passive way for them to go about requesting a updated value on their home is the easy button. Maybe you just basically create a website that they can go to, or they hit a website. It's a simple form: name, address, what improvements or changes you made to the house since you bought it. And maybe ask them, like, what are the 2 or 3 homes that you've seen sell that are similar to yours in the last 6 months, things like that. And they go, not too many questions, maybe 5 or 6, no more than that. And then promise them the CMA in the next, 24 hours. And then ask them, one of the other questions would be, are you asking for this comparative market analysis for the sake of curiosity, or are you thinking about putting your house for sale or something like that?
Maybe thinking about renovating it. Start the conversation.
Right. And ideally, if you're putting the home for sale, ideally, how soon would you like the home sold? So again, you're going to be getting leads from all of this because they are appreciative of the fact that you are doing something to help the community. And they're going to see you as somebody who is worthy of doing business with. Your brand is going to be something that they've actually paid attention to because you led with tremendous value.
That's right. You are the resource. You're the go-to housing person, housing oriented. Maybe all they need is a carpenter. But here's the thing. Call them and ask them, have the conversation. Don't just text them the phone number to the carpenter.
And there's a lot of ways, obviously, throughout the year to reinforce this. The directory by itself is fantastic. But if you start doing, like, around Halloween, we talk about, we have all these ideas inside Premier. I'm only going to remember a few of them off the top of my head. But for example, you do a pumpkin, we sell pumpkins. At the same time, you do a blood drive for the American Red Cross. Or, during maybe the holidays, you're going to do something where it's a canned
toy
food
drive or something.
A toy drive, exactly. In conjunction with, I'm sure your local fire department does something similar. You guys get the idea? Always put yourself in the position where you're doing something overtly contributory for your community, and that's the brand that you'll create for yourself. And if you think about it, no amount of AI or marketing or social media or Instagram TikToking is going to be able to beat the brand that you've essentially established yourself as, which is somebody who's definitely the professional, who's definitely contributing to the community. Do you see how that's sacred space that everybody wants, but nobody's willing to do the work? Do the real work of real estate, and you're going to create for yourself. You're going to have a business with a moat around it because no one else will have done all of these things. And it's not just one and done. You have to do these things continuously. But guess what? Many of you are blessed with a ridiculously high average sale price, right? Yeah. And you sell in these really beautiful communities. And it's worth doing it if your average commission is $15, $20, $30, $50, $100,000. That, to me, in my mind, seems like a no-brainer that you want to do whatever it takes to make it so that you are definitely in that, sacred position in the hearts and the minds of those sellers.
That's right. And none of this really costs you any money when we told you how to make it free.
And it's fun, too.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, just from a coaching standpoint. If this is something you're not going to do for whatever reason, you can't drive around your community and be mad because somebody didn't choose you or didn't even interview you for the opportunity of listing their home or representing them on the buyer side.
That's right.
You can't. Okay, so final thoughts. Keep it relevant. Commit to updating the directory annually to stay relevant, accurate, and useful. Let residents know when to expect next year's version, how to send their updated information to you, to your email or text you. And again, when that happens, you call them and have real conversations. Next, be sure your neighborhood directory is well designed, it's practical, it's professional. It should reflect your value to the community and will become a fantastic tool to generate listings, buyers, and referral leads. Remember, this is not paid lead generation. No referral fees here. Total neighborhood domination. What could be better than that? And once your neighborhood directory is completed, personally deliver it by door knocking whenever possible. Depends on how many you have. Or for efficiency, you can have a community event for residents to pick up the guide at the clubhouse if you have one, maybe at your house or at your office.
Well, or just deliver it to them personally.
That's the best, I think.
That's the best way. Just go and knock on the door and do it at a time. It's not just, it's not drop and dash, okay? It's knock on the door when you know they're going to be home so you can actually give it to them so they can, obviously be appreciative of the fact that you're delivering it to their door. And you're going to be surprised how oftentimes you do that. It's going to spark these really meaningful long-term relationships. It's very simple how you be successful in real estate. It's called being of service to other people.
And providing value.
Continuously. It's not hiding behind a keyboard and trying to become a social media influencer in the real estate space. If you want to do all of the other stuff, other than the real work of real estate, which is being, overtly in front of other people, you're proactively having conversations with people on a regular basis. But if you want to do all the passive marketing and advertising, which is what social media and marketing advertising is, That's fine, but do it secondarily to reinforce the proactive activities. I hope you clearly understand that. I know a lot of you do because we get great feedback how that mindset shift away from just doing things passively and waiting for business to come to you and moving towards proactively going after the business and then having the passive reinforce the proactive activity. That really has changed a lot of your businesses and really I think and it changed the industry for those who care to listen.
Yes, that's right. And here's the thing. Where do real estate transactions come from? They all start with a conversation where somebody's got a question, they've got a need about buying or selling or investing, or maybe somebody to refer to you. It starts with a conversation. Some of you are secret agents because you report that you're not sure what to say, how to say it. We tell you to provide value all of the time, but you're not sure how to do that. Over the past 2 podcasts, we've given you many ways to put together your neighborhood guide, which will cause lots of great friendly conversations where it all comes back to you providing value. People will be appreciative. They'll be glad to talk about real estate with you. So don't be a secret agent.
In Premier Coaching clients, and those of you who are joining right now, we are going to have templated pages for this. We are going to give you some specific ideas on how to go about scaling this idea up. But we strongly encourage you to take this seriously. And if you don't have a geographic farm, please listen to the start points from yesterday's podcast where we talked in a fair amount of detail about how to go about picking your geographic farm. Not all neighborhoods are the same, and you got to be investing in something. It's like buying stock. You want to be investing in a stock that has the greatest, chance of increasing in value, not flatlining or decreasing. And that goes true for a lot of communities too.
Well, that's right. And as I was reviewing the notes for this, I wrote a little bit about this in our Harris Rules book, which you guys can get on Amazon. And the example I gave was, when you're choosing your geographic farm, both of our parents and, we own rentals in this zip code too, in Columbus, right? 43085. Virtually nobody moves ever for any reason. When houses change hands, it's privately. It's from parent to kid, or it's because you knew somebody, right? The same families have lived there for eons. Nobody ever moves. There's no inventory. I would never spend a bunch of money on that. Now, the zip code just south of there was our original stomping ground where we sold tons of property, which is still a hot zip code, because the houses are smaller and it's in a slightly less desirable school district. You start there and you move up to the other one if you can. So if I had X amount of dollars to spend, or I was going to do a neighborhood guide, I'm going to go to 43214 because it turns over. There's more activity there.
Well, 43214 would be a good community because of the fact that you do have inside 43214 first-time homebuyer homes, move-up homes, and then really expensive homes.
Yes.
So someone can stay.
Lots of movement.
Right, lots of movement, up and down, and that would be a golden neighborhood to be in. Don't be intimidated if there's old grizzled veterans that are in the marketplace, because it is so true. Some of the easiest markets to compete in are the ones with the most expensive real estate, because those average commissions have made the agents have never really had to be, frankly, that competitive, because they get a lot of their business from centers of influence and past clients.
Socially, yeah.
But during a market I think in a lot of markets, you're seeing a lot of expireds. You're seeing a lot of essentially agents who have had these dominant positions in these communities for a long period of time. Their expireds are going to kill their market share because the sellers are going to, future sellers are going to see that, Bob was king yesterday, but he's not getting these homes sold. They're starting to expire. That's the perfect time to start swooping in, hunting expireds, building your brand, dare I say, in those particular communities. There's always opportunity in real estate, no matter what direction interest rates are going, no matter who's the president is, no matter whatever the hell's going on in the news. There's always opportunity, because you were smart enough to get a real estate license and you're selling something that people always need. People always have housing expense. And even after you are dead, you are still paying to be someplace for the most part, right? So there's no such thing as a free place to live, except unfortunately if you're homeless. I'm not trying to crack a joke. I'm just telling you the truth.
No, even if your house is paid off, you're paying property tax.
Exactly.
HOA, insurance.
You're selling something that people always want. Unlike, let's say we do go into a recession. Imagine all the things that you're not going to be spending money on, because you're going to be maybe, paying a little bit more closer attention to, maybe you're not going to go on an expensive vacation. You're going to go on a vacation, but it might be a staycation. Or you're going to drive someplace opposed to flying someplace. Those types of things. Well, what's not going to happen or not going to change is you're still going to need a place to live. You're still going to need food to eat. You're still going to need utilities. You were smart enough to get a license. Now, it's really absolutely critical that you're smart enough to adjust to what this new market has to offer and start being more ambitious. When everybody else is starting to think pessimistically, you have to think optimistically. Ask yourself if your behavior now reflects the current market or the market that's about to come. And I'll give you a little challenging. If you've been in the business for, let's say, 5 years, you all remember 2000, 2001, 2022. I'm sorry, 2021, 2022.
Yeah.
Julie and I have been in the business a long time. I remember those years too.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you can remember how buoyant everything was, interest rates were low. People were, everyone's buying real estate. Here, want proof? There were over 6 million home sales.
6.5.
Okay. There's basically going to be maybe 4 million home sales this year.
Everybody you knew was buying or selling.
Multiple times a year. It was like a thing to do, right? So back then, everyone was optimistic. Everyone was building their teams. Everyone was doing all these great, crazy things. They were so excited. The ambition was everywhere. That was called an easy time to make money because everybody was doing it because the market was making everyone look like superheroes. And it's easy to make mistakes. You can make a mistake. Who cares? You got enough money flowing in. You can paper up with more dollars, the new dollars that are coming in at the door to make up for the failed branding and marketing campaign for your inefficient team. More money flows in, more it allows people to make bad decisions and not hold themselves accountable, right? That's unfortunately what happens. We're on the other end of that now. We are now experiencing the exact opposite of that. So when everyone was doing great and you were doing great, were you behaving differently than you are now? You are thinking differently, feeling you obviously emotionally differently. Maybe you were way more optimistic then. You're pessimistic now. And now you maybe are feeling, oh, you know what? All these things, all these World War this and President this and all these things, right? So now do you feel as excited and as motivated as you did just 3 years ago, 4 years ago? Do you, dear listener? You might, but you probably don't. And you haven't really thought about it. Now, here's a good way to position yourself to know whether you don't remember how you felt 3 years ago. How were you living 3 years ago? What were you spending your money on? Did you go on vacations 3 years ago? Were you buying new cars 3 years ago? Were you, reading more books 3 years ago? Were you skinnier 3 years ago? Were things generally in your life better that you can remember? Look back in your pictures on your phone and compare it to how you're living now. Because how you're living now, how you're feeling now, is going to be what your future is. Now, here's the thing. When everyone's doing great, and you're doing great and you feel optimistic, that means when everyone's, challenged and, people are pessimistic, you're also going to be challenged and pessimistic. The way you become successful is you do not allow the essentially environment with a people environment mostly, to control your mindset. So when everyone is doing great, you're doing great. When everyone's not doing great, you're still doing great. You have to think, how are you feeling and how are you acting? Because how you're thinking and how you're feeling now is going to be directly related to what you choose to invite into your life today and then tomorrow. So, for example, if you do not believe that 2025 and 2026, if you do not believe that that's the start of the best part of your entire life, and I do not care how old you are, it's the start of what's going to be the best years of your life. Many, many years of unbelievable, ever-increasing levels of wealth, health, happiness, all the things starts in a few months. If you don't believe that, if you believe the exact opposite, your best days are behind you, all these bad things are going to happen, think about, just as I was taking you through the gambit of emotions there, what behavior, what are you going to be doing today? If you know for sure that next year, starting today, is the start of the best chapter of your life, the best season of your life, what are you going to be doing now? How are you going to be thinking? Who are you going to associate with? Who are you going to stop associating with? What are you going to stop reading? If you know for sure that the next phase in your life is going to be the best phase in your life, you know it for sure. What actions are you taking today? Are you reading are you doom scrolling? Are you essentially hiding behind your keyboard and avoiding contact with other people in some, direct or indirect way? What behaviors are you taking? Look around at the people in your life, and if you can, compare them to how they were, especially real estate people, but anyone in general, how they were 3 years ago. Because here's what happens. It compounds. If you're acting pessimistically, if you're being a skeptic, if you're essentially not feeling optimistic, that's going to compound into next year and the year and the year and that. And then you're going to lose a decade. You're going to lose what could have been the best chapter of your life because of the fact that your thoughts today led to your behaviors tomorrow. So I strongly encourage all of you to unplug from any negative emotions. Acknowledge that you can be optimistic. You can, control your mindset. Remember how you felt a few years ago? Get back in alignment with the person that you want to be. That way you can make your tomorrow absolutely brilliant. Again, the thoughts, the behaviors that you do today will compound and will control your results that you get for the rest of your life, especially starting next year. Do take that seriously. And if you are in a downward spiral and you are finding yourself not feeling optimistic, you are finding yourself, not wanting to learn new things, if you do think your best years are behind you, you're going to make that true as well. You're going to make next year horrible. You're going to probably invite some real hardships into your life. You're going to lose friends. The things that you want to have in your life or used to want to have in your life, they're going to leave you. Nothing stays, there's no such thing as complacency in life. That's a myth. So you always have to be improving your health, your wealth, your happiness, and your relationships and your levels of learning. As soon as you stop doing that, you're going to lose what you have.
That's why your best mantra for yourself is, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. You have to own your success every day. That way, instead of looking back and saying, woulda, coulda, shoulda, you should have done a better job last year, instead you're going to say, thank you, past, fill in your name, for having your act together and being positive and being the light in the market instead of being the darkness.
Well, Julie, you and I are trying to work on Zoe's behavior, our 11-year-old almost.
Yes.
Right? She's 11 in a few months. Yeah, and she's got...
Same thing.
She's developed... It's a typical kid thing where they don't want to take responsibility. Not my fault, blah, 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 blah. We'll just fight forever just to admit, just all these things, right? And so she doesn't... Julie and I were reading about, how do we help her move past that? What kind of positive parenting can we do to make it so she does move past that? And Julia was researching, and it talked about the long-term effects of allowing a human to act like that. Tell them what you read.
Oh, that's right. If somebody can, typical kid stuff, being combative, not having responsibility, blaming other people. Well, okay, so that's normal for a 10 or 11-year-old, but it's not normal when you're 15 or 16, when you're 20 years old, when you're building your relationships, when you're trying to get a job. So it's our responsibility and our accountability to turn that ship around.
Well, but it compounds, right?
Yes.
So if we let her essentially, and it is get away with acting like that, a brat basically, and not ever taking responsibility. And just
then
doing
we're creating not a great human.
We're reinforcing it by allowing her to continue on that path, which means that as she gets older, she's not going to have the life she otherwise would have had because it compounds. She's going to get a reputation. She's not
drive people away.
She'll essentially attract, lower value people and relationships to her life.
Yep.
That's going to be something that by the time she's 30, because you and I
Even
weren't
20,
because we wouldn't, we're doing the work with her, but a lot of us, when we were being raised, our parents didn't do the work with us. They put up with our crap for too long. They had other things to do in their lives. Maybe they were dealing with their own stuff. It doesn't matter. But a lot of the behaviors that a lot of us have nowadays are because we're not taking full responsibilities for our present situations. We want to look for everything possible to blame. And look, you did have hardships. You might have some issues. You might have some, diagnosable problems. And that's all true. I'm not taking that away from you. But the reality of it is how you react to those things are what ultimately is going to control the person that it controls the person that you are, but the person that you'll be becoming. That's really what, here we are struggling with our preteen with that. And some adults, we see it in our coaching clients, are still struggling with it.
That's right. Look at it, what the reaction to the commission sharing lawsuit was.
Yeah.
There are still agents, as we speak on this podcast, as you're listening to us on this podcast, there are agents that are typing away on the different social media pages like that crazed cat on the keyboard about how outraged they are that they have to, oh my gosh, have a presentation and get a signature. How can this be? It's not fair. Doesn't that sound like a preteen saying it's not fair they have to do their homework? You've got to get away from that, accept the changes, do something about it, bring yourself up professionally, embrace it, and have some leadership. Lead your clients, lead your prospects, do the right thing. It's what you do every day. And it is true in real estate. There's so many opportunities every single day where you've got to make the decision. Are you going to be the leader in the transactions you're working on right now? Or are you going to get into fights with the other agent about who's right and wrong and whose client is nastier to the next one? You have got to be the leader in the community if you expect to be looked at that way.
Well, I took on a personal coaching client, and Julie has like 20 and I have one. And this one in particular, he wanted me because he was very successful, built a huge team, and now he's having to get back into production. And the thing I'm drilling down on him is daily minimum standards, which, by the way, interestingly enough, in these little child psychology books that we're reading for advice with with Zoe, they're suggesting the same thing.
Yep.
And it's so funny. I'd never read those books before, but it was, holding ourselves, having an actual list of daily minimum standards. It's going to be a number of contacts, which is
We've done podcasts on that.
Yeah, well, but seriously, holding, every single day you're going to work out. Every single day you're going to show overt gratitude to the people you love. Every single day you're going to take your supplements. Every single day you're going to you're going to make the number of, proactive lead generation contacts as determined by your real estate treasure map. Every single day, other things, not a lot, maybe 5 things, maybe 10 things. And every single day, those are going to be your North Star items you're going to live by. You're going to pray. You're going to meditate every single day. That's how you actually determine whether or not you had a good day or not. And what's going to happen is, even if you didn't take a listing that day, even if no one said anything nice to you, even if, by all outward ways of indicating you didn't have a great day, you did, because you're building positive momentum. Those behaviors today compound with the behaviors tomorrow, and you keep on doing it, you keep on doing it, you keep on doing it. Zoe's 11 almost, and so she'll ask for a reward. What do I get for doing it? Well, she doesn't understand what she gets for doing it is not going to actually show up in her life for like a decade or 20 years, because she's become a really amazing woman because of the fact that she was not, she didn't grow up with parents who were complacent about her having these strange kid behaviors. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It's the accumulation effect, which either works for you or against you, depending on what your choices are every day.
But that's ultimately what determines all of our futures.
Sure.
Really, that's the reason real estate can be the easiest way to have an amazing financial future, or it can be misery. Because if you're willing to stay the course and do what you don't want to do, and you don't want to do it at the highest level, like creating this directory told you about the last couple days. If you're willing to do that and stay with it consistently and stop looking for a shot, I did the directory, I didn't get any leads. No, you're going to have to keep doing it. You're going to have to keep reinforcing it. And then over time, usually maybe it might take a year, it might take 2 or 3 years, you doing that with a proactive lead generation, calling the expireds, making sure you're doing, keeping yourself involved with your centers of influence and past clients. What does happen is you reach what we call cruising altitude, and things do get a hell of a lot easier, but you have to earn the right to be successful. And when you're at that level, you have to keep doing it. Otherwise, you're going to lose the momentum that you built. That is the unfortunate truth. Or the fortunate truth. God designed all of us to always be staying in action and always improving. And as soon as we choose to kick our feet up, almost always we start losing everything that we'd worked so damn hard to have in the first place.
Yes. So what choices are you going to make today, this week, this month? It starts now. So send us some feedback on the latest podcasts and send us some special requests. One of the reasons we did this one was a special request, as is tomorrow's, by the way.
Well, drop in our inbox over on Instagram. It's at Tim and Julie Harris. Message us there for any additional show ideas. If you've not yet done so, we certainly would appreciate giving us a 5-star review if you feel that we merit it over on iTunes, with a comment on why you like the podcast. It means the world to us when you do that. In the meantime, have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.